So, Kat, what do you think of? Hi.
Hi. Hello. Good evening.
Welcome back.
Yeah,
Yay.
yay.
What do you think of when you think of a lawn?
Oh my gosh, so many things. I mean, I grew up in a house with a lawn in New Mexico, which is kind of like,
That's
um,
crazy.
yeah. But we had a front lawn, we had a back lawn. It was mostly my dad maintaining it, it was kind of like Saturdays are for mowing. And yeah, he got rid of the front lawn and a lot of the backyard. There's still a yard there. Um, It's like 10 or 15 years ago, so
Oh, cool.
less mowing. But yeah, I think they're like America, right? It's like this
Mm-hmm.
lush green lawn where you can sit with your pets and your family, like playing baseball in the backyard on Sunday mornings or whatever. And um, I had some friends come and visit from Europe once, and like all they wanted to do was go sit in my backyard, Like, look, can we just sit in your backyard? Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Was that because
Yeah.
they didn't have like a lawn space or?
Yeah, their garden spaces are tiny in
Yeah,
Amsterdam and London. So it was like, yeah, it was funny. I was like, you guys want
that's
to go out?
awesome.
And they're like, no. The Wi-Fi reaches to the hill in your backyard. I just want to go sit in the sun. And I was like, okay.
Aw, that's kind of
Yeah.
nice, actually.
Yeah. But
Um,
water bills, that was the big thing.
with growing up
Well, yeah,
or
yeah.
now?
Uh, I mean, I even remember like my high school got in trouble for water usage with the city because they had so many like lush green lawns and
Wow, and that was in New Mexico.
yeah,
That's so interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, welp, lawns are bad now.
yeah. They're out. Lawns
The
are
lawns are
out.
out. So let's get into it. Welcome to Greening Up My Act.
I love that our music kind of makes me feel like I should put on an apron and like Donna Reed around.
That is so funny because that's actually the vibe I was going for.
100%. Yes, I
Like
know. It's
50s
perfect.
housewife. Yes, I love it so much.
Yeah, it's perfect. But
Yeah,
it goes with the lawn thing from the 50s, right? Like Mr.
totally.
Cleaver's outside mowing the lawn and I'm waving at him while I'm making coffee, whatever.
Yeah, while I'm deadheading my roses.
Yes, exactly. In my crinolines.
Yes. Uh yeah, that's funny. I cuz I'm going to get into like a little bit minor bit of the history of lawns, and it's
Oh,
kind of
great.
interesting, and the future of lawns then. So,
Okay.
cuz yeah, there's this whole like now there's this whole movement of anti-lawn. I think it started around like 2016. That was the uh most, or that was like the oldest source I could find
Okay.
talking about anti-lawns, like no mow movement, that type of thing.
Yeah. It's interesting. My ex-husband ran a golf company and people in America get really mad about golf courses because of water usage for lawns. And it's really interesting to think about that. Like, I think, yeah, 2016 is kind of when you started hearing more of that out of people who are like, why do we have these giant city sponsored? And I do know, to mollify people, that golf courses have actually been on the forefront of figuring out how to reuse gray water and technology for minimizing water usage. I'm not defending, you know, these things golf courses started in Scotland and Ireland. So,
So it's not
they've,
just Americans.
yeah, well, but it rains there all the time. So those kinds
Fair.
of lawns are, instead of in the desert in Phoenix or Tucson or something, there's a giant lawn of grass meant just for rich people to play a sport on. I can see why that would make people upset. So, but they are very much at the forefront of developing water usage technologies that minimize waste and minimize, water usage, and find ways to grow grass that are resilient to drought and things like that. So it's
That's
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
That is interesting because it's like they probably have incentive, like you said, water bills, right?
Oh, 100%.
I'm sure it's quite expensive.
Yeah. Your green fee
So,
just keeps going up, but yeah.
mm-hmm. We're gonna talk a little bit about uh, golf courses as well, but not much.
Okay, good.
But first off, who the hell are we? What are we
Oh
doing here?
yeah. Who are we? I mean, obviously, okay, we're a podcast. We're greening up my act. That's
Mm-hmm.
thank you for tuning in. If you meant to be
Step
listening to
one.
something else, I'm sorry, but hold on tight. It's gonna be a fun ride.
Oopsie.
Yeah.
Accidental listener. Love it.
Ooh.
Uh, yeah, and this is season 4. This is
Yeah.
the first episode of season 4, which is insane.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the great outdoors this
Yeah.
season. We've covered like personal care products. We've covered um what the hell else?
House
Oh, like
cleaning.
cleaning products. And what else did we do?
What was season?
That's so sad. What was number 2?
Yeah, what was season 2? Oh, recycled
Oh.
waste. That was.
Ah,
We've
yes.
blocked it out because it was so depressing
Mm-hmm.
in so many ways. Yeah.
Traumatic. Yeah, the
Yeah.
trauma of waste.
But, educational.
Yeah, I learned a lot. Like
Yeah.
that not all recycling is bad.
Yeah.
Just
Or
plastic,
good.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, so our day job is that we are both marketing writers. So like we have sort of like an inside take on uh what marketers are using, like what the language marketers are using to promote their products, and we can kind of see through what we call the green hooey. So we're trying to help you see the greenwashing for yourselves in the wild. But we're also just normal people trying to figure this shit out for ourselves.
Yeah.
So,
We're both interested in making more sustainable individual choices
mm-hmm.
about how we live our personal lives so that we can have less of an impact on the environment and see ways to hold companies accountable from time to time. And
Yes.
also, I mean, we're getting more into the political aspects. I think that's going to be an upcoming season too. So,
Yeah, like the bigger than individual action.
yeah,
What can you do?
yeah, we're
So,
concerned about finite resources and um, climate change. I mean, it's one of the biggest issues impacting our lives, and we don't have as much say in that as maybe we'd all like with our individual choices. But at the same time, everything adds up. So anything we can do
yeah,
to
and
live a
there
more
are
sustainable life.
things,
Mm-hmm.
right? There are things that we found that actually do matter, like food
Yeah,
waste and fast fashion. So those are
absolutely.
things that like consumers directly impact. So
Yeah. So speak with your capitalist funds and come along on the ride with us as we learn. And also, yeah, I do have to point out continually, we're not scientists, we're not journalists. This is an opinion podcast about, from two marketing writers who are just trying to kind of see through our colleagues, what they put out in terms of, what they're allowed to say and what they do say, and how we can be like, that's just advertising.
yes, or even when it's not advertising, when it's just like dumb.
Yeah.
I feel like we're
Circular.
like
I mean, yeah, we have a
tuned
list of,
in.
yeah, we have a list of green hooey words that mean nothing but sound good.
Yeah.
Like green,
Yes. Yeah,
natural.
green. When products say that they're saving the earth, it just makes my blood boil.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
well, I don't really think that's true.
Yeah. And just wait till we get into carbon offsets. Yeah.
Oh, ho, 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 ho. Is that still this season? Do we
Yeah,
keep
it's the
that?
last one this season, I think.
Yes. I'm so
Planting
excited.
trees.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
tree
Mm-hmm.
planting programs, because it turns out those are a load of green hooey, unfortunately.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Wah, wah.
But yeah.
So, for this episode, we're talking about lawns, because I feel like everyone and their mother is like, lawns are evil these days,
Yeah.
at least on
Huge smear
Instagram.
campaign. Yes.
Yeah.
Anti-lawn movement.
Yes, the anti-lawn movement. So I looked into it, and I have some really interesting stuff to info to relay. So
I'm
let's
excited.
talk about my sources first. Two things we do need to talk about. So since this is our first episode of the season, we're changing things up slightly. We had mentioned it before in one of the, just an announcement last season, but we are looking into the science less because, like we said, we're not scientists.
Right. We know
And
scientists, but that doesn't make us scientists.
yeah, and we're like smart people and can kind of figure stuff out.
We can read.
But
We know how to read.
yeah, but we also don't have all the time in the world, and we have been talking about making this sustainability podcast sustainable for us.
Yeah, on a
And
personal level.
so
Mm-hmm.
we just don't have the capacity to go down 100 rabbit holes deep diving into science that we don't have a background in. So we're trusting the sources more, and we have given ourselves a max of 5 sources that we can use per episode. So that's going to be our challenge, but it's actually, I think it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And
I think it'll be helpful for us because we do still have those marketing day jobs, as marketing writers. Still got 5 blogs to write. Come on.
We sure do. But we really wanted to keep doing this, so we kind of like figured out a way to make it happen, and I think we nailed it. It's gonna be great.
And I think it opens us up to more conversation with our listeners.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the thing we have the most fun with, is like chatting with each other, not talking about like formaldehyde. So
yeah, PFAS. They're everywhere.
So and we're also trying video.
Yes. Which I didn't put on. I didn't put on the full face of beauty counter makeup this evening.
I literally am. Yeah, look at me.
You look great. You got great lighting. I've got like backlighting. I look like a
Thank you.
witch.
It's funny. I'm jealous of your lighting. I feel like I'm in a tanning bed or something.
You kind of are in a very bright.
Yes.
You're going to heaven, I think.
I'm an angel here to deliver you from the evil of lawns.
Yes.
So if you want to look at YouTube, we are on YouTube, and fingers crossed we're gonna get this video up. It's a new platform we're using, so no guarantees, but fingers crossed.
Yes. And if you want to give us makeup tips, let us know.
Yeah, please don't. I'm not gonna take any of them, so don't bother. Yeah.
More eyebrows, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. All right. So Discover Magazine was my first source. The first 3 were basically just talking about lawns and why they suck. So Discover Magazine, the National Resources Defense Council, which, man, is that a like hell of a name. I've heard of them before, and like I know about them, but it just sounds so antagonistic
and official.
But actually they had some really like fair assessment in their source. It was like very fair.
So they're not just like militaristic anti-lawn people.
No, other places are though, which is interesting.
Like Instagram, yeah.
Well, yes, exactly. The Guardian talked about lawns, and then the last 2 sources, one was Grist, which is like an environmental site. They talk about tree cover in low-income neighborhoods. So you can see where we're going.
Yes.
And then very briefly, I used the source called Jacobin.
Okay. Yeah, Jacobin's a pretty far left.
Okay.
News source. I mean, the Guardian is too.
Yeah, but that doesn't surprise me because they're talking about how they want a green jobs program.
Yeah.
Through the government, the federal government. So
there you go.
Yarp. So, all right. Today we're talking about how lawns are bad. An estimated over 163,000 square kilometers of lawn space exists across the United States.
They put it in kilometers?
Yes. I have what that means in sort of
American speak? Yeah.
Yeah. Not miles, but whatever. This does include parks and golf courses. So that's not just lawns, but that is the combined land mass that's basically the same size as Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Massachusetts.
So like most of New England.
All together. All of that. Just lawn.
So like say intentionally planted, green, watered, curated lawn, grass. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
I don't. It feels small to me. I was like expecting the state
Really?
of Texas. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Maine is huge.
Maine is huge. I mean, come on, Texas is huge.
I
But
wonder
I
the difference.
yeah. Yeah, I wonder if they were like, "Oh, it's like a quarter of Texas." I don't know. But I
Yeah.
mean, it is big. I would have used like a western state. Like, was that the state of Wyoming or the state of Colorado? You know, those are because I'm from the West,
Yeah.
so that's how I think.
Right,
But
right, 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 right. Yeah, Maine is big though. So I'm thinking like Maine plus the small ones. That's pretty decent
it's
amount of
a pretty, I
space.
mean, when you think about how much empty open space there is in the United States, it makes sense.
Right. Yes. Yeah, an uninhabited land.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um okay. So one thing we're going to look at a little bit this season that we didn't look at so much. Sorry, I got to itch my cheek and I'm trying not to make a bunch of noise. Um I'm like oh, we're going to look at like what eco-friendly claims are they making rather than the science.
Yeah.
So, um I found 3 claims that this sort of lawn is bad, no mow movement is making about uh, lawns. You know
Okay. Yeah.
that they're trying to. Yeah. So the first one is that it depletes water aquifers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've never said that word out loud. I don't think aquifer. It's not
Aquifer.
aquifer. That's a
No, it's aquifer.
product.
Yeah, Aquaphor is the lotion,
That's
which
a
we should probably
skin.
investigate. Yeah, at some point. But yeah,
Yeah, we were actually gonna do skin. I think like lotions
yeah,
for last season, and then we just ran out of space. But
yeah,
I still use it. Anywho's, so they say that it depletes water aquifers, and that's basically because lawns take a shitload of water, like you
yeah,
said,
yeah.
in order for the, and it depends on where you live, right?
Right.
But and it depends on the year. But for example, in July 2023, as you know, Kat, because we talked about it a lot on the podcast, 50% of our country, the United States, was experiencing a heat wave. So that killed a lot of my plants, and
Yeah,
I'm in Maryland,
yeah. Where it rains.
and
Yeah,
it would have required a ton of water to save them, but I was like, A, too lazy, and B, didn't want to do it. I didn't want to waste all that water.
yeah,
So, like, all of my herbs that I've had for probably 8 years just croaked.
yeah,
So, luckily, we don't care about our lawn because our
yeah,
lawn is literally mostly weeds. It's not really a lawn. Nobody has taken care of it's an old house. Nobody's taken care of this lawn for like decades. So we aren't watering our lawn. Like
yeah.
that's just
I have
never.
never pulled out. Yeah, here too. My neighbor is actually like, so are you gonna look into landscaping?
Is that what you've been talking about it?
Yeah. Well, no, I've always wanted I mean, it just looks
Okay, yeah.
like it could look better. And
Oh
it
yeah,
does
same.
you feel bad in the summer when it just dies. I mean, it's been raining for 2 weeks now, so I have this lush weed lawn, you know,
Love it.
and it looks, if somebody mows it once in a while,
Yeah. It
it
looks
looks
like
green and
grassish,
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
But yeah, I don't water it. And I think the people who lived here before me did. Um, so the parrots that live in the cell phone tower across the street used to get excited when I got the hose out because they would like, I'm sure they would play in the water, but I don't water that lawn.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
kind of
I'm not doing it.
adorable.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, because like, how do you even mow or water a lawn? I guess it's just a sprinkler. I just can't imagine dragging a sprinkler around. And
Well,
well, I
yeah.
have weeds, but that's why.
Yeah.
But
Well, and so, I will say, like, growing up in New Mexico, all of those lawn spaces have irrigation systems, the in-ground
okay,
sprinklers. We had in-ground sprinklers when I was growing up, and they pop out of the earth in the morning and water the lawn. And,
right.
that you can time them, things like that. But yeah, here it would be a hose attached to, a connector, whatever that sprinkler is that does, and then you move it,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to remember to move it every 15 minutes or whatever, or you flood parts and forget others. And yeah, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, I have an acre. There's just no way in
Oh my
hell that would
God.
ever
No.
happen.
Yeah.
An acre of weeds. It's great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I found that every year across the country, lawns consume about 3 trillion gallons of water a year. Again, this includes golf courses and parks, but
Parks.
still 3 trillion gallons for
Wow.
grass.
Yeah.
That's
And
crazy.
it's not native grass, I think is something.
We are going to get into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um and so Discover magazine says like this type of landscaping might jive. They said, quote, it might jive all right with the natural ecosystem in some parts of the US like New England, but lawns are wildly out of step with the natural ecosystems of dry places like Phoenix or San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
as we
Yep.
mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So they're basically saying you'll need to pump groundwater stored in depleting aquifer. Oh, God, aquifers. It's all depleting. In depleting aquifers to maintain your grass. So this is especially harmful in hot places. But like I said, it didn't rain for like a month and a half in Maryland last year during that heat wave. So,
Yeah.
we have a well and we were actually worried like, do we need to check our well? Like, are we going to have enough
Yeah.
water? Um so that's number 1. That's the one claim that they're making and there is evidence to back it up, right? Another claim why lawns are bad is that they devastate local ecosystems.
Okay.
So, like you mentioned, uh, turf grass. Okay, so most grass species that are found in the United States are actually European.
Oh,
So they're
plot
not
thickens.
native, which
Okay.
is so
Yeah.
interesting. And turf grass provides virtually no habitat for pollinators or other animals and
It doesn't
plants.
flower. Yeah.
And it's not tall enough
Yeah.
either. We keep it short. Not to mention lawn care uses about 70 million pounds of pesticides every year.
Yikes.
70
Yeah.
million pounds.
That's crazy.
I can't imagine using pesticides on my lawn. Maybe, I guess I know people who use it for like mosquitoes. I guess that would
Yeah.
count.
Yeah.
That would
I
probably
mean,
count.
that's a major problem here is mosquitoes.
Yeah. I mean, it does kind of ruin the backyard if you have mosquitoes everywhere. But
Yeah. You can't go outside from like April to November here.
yeah, unless you lather
Really
on
want
that
Zika.
deep
Yeah.
or that. God. Yeah, so they say like by giving space in your yard to bushes, plants, and trees of different sizes, you can diversify the types of um the ecosystem in your backyard. So there's more space for the bees, more space for the birds, and you can actually even help to diversify the species in your yard by just changing the height of the grass itself. So if you keep your grass super short, that's actually the worst thing you can do. So mowing every week is not good.
Yeah.
And it's great because there's research on this that shows that if you're a lazy mower and you mow like every 2 to 3 weeks, you're helping diversify the
Oh,
species
that's
in your
great.
yard. I know, what good news.
It's like, yeah, I get to be lazy. Yeah, I'm going to tell that to my nosy neighbor next time. But also, I know that keeping your lawn too short makes it need more water too.
Yeah, it's not actually good for it. My dad's a landscaper, and I remember him saying that it will die quicker
Yeah.
if you cut it too short.
Yeah.
It just makes sense, right? You're like hacking it to
Yeah.
pieces.
Yeah. It's
So,
stressed and it needs more. Yeah.
yes. And the water would make sense because it would probably get dried out faster.
Yeah.
So, um, and interestingly enough, research showed that how often you mow your lawn doesn't really make a difference in the tick activity.
Okay. So
I
that's
don't know if I
one.
believe that. I do believe it. I mean, it's research, whatever. But when we first moved into this house, the lady before us, we know from the neighbors, was not mowing very often, like at all, which great for the local ecosystem.
Yeah. The birds are like, hooray. But so are the ticks. Yeah.
Yeah, but when we would go out in our yard, it was like you would probably have 5 ticks on your legs when you came into the house every single time. And over time, as we've actually mowed it every couple weeks, it's gotten a lot better. So I don't know. Maybe there's something else to it, but
Interesting.
that's
Yeah.
just my personal experience. But ticks are disgusting. So
Yeah. Then terrifying. Lyme
yes,
disease is so scary.
yeah, we found a tick on Charlie.
No.
That was scary. Her vet. Oh my god, she doesn't have a vet. She's a child.
She's a baby. Yeah.
No, but they told us, the pediatrician basically was just like, yeah, just keep an eye on it. There's nothing we can do. I'm like, cool,
Yeah.
great.
Well, yeah, because there's no prophylaxis against Lyme disease. It just shows up and then you manage it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do antibiotics, but only
Yeah.
if there's symptoms.
Yeah.
So, anywho's, apparently research says that it doesn't matter how tall your lawn is. That ticks don't really care. I've also heard that if it's really sunny, which my God is my yard sunny, that the ticks don't like that. But
Yeah, they don't
again,
like light.
they
I mean,
sure
that's why they
did.
prefer furry animals, is because they can hide.
Yeah, it would make sense, but they sure did like my lawn for a year there. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I
I'm
don't know.
I'm
Maybe we
I'm
just have
itchy. I'm like scratching everything. Just thinking about it.
grossies. I have ticks everywhere. We actually just found it. It's end of January and it's like 30 degrees outside, and we just found a tick on my dog. So this sucks. I hate it.
Go to bed, ticks. Not your time.
Truly, it's disgusting. Oh, it's probably because it was so warm.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. El
ugh,
Nino.
things are disgusting. So, anyways, not an episode about ticks, but
No.
okay. So the third and final, what do you call it? Claim, eco-friendly claim that people are making. It's not really eco-friendly. It's like anti-eco-friendly, but claim that No Mo movement is making about lawns is that they contribute to rising carbon dioxide emissions. And you look skeptical because I was kind of like, huh? What? And I kind of found out it's a little bit, it's not as straightforward as I thought, but it is sort of a twofold way. Like there's
Okay.
two ways that it does. One is lawn mowing uses about like 200 million gallons of gas every year.
Okay. That I believe. Yeah. We've talked about leaf blowers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, we didn't. Not yet.
I
Because
thought we
remember,
had in something maybe, but okay.
well, we
Yeah.
didn't leave the leaves, but we're going to
Okay.
re-record that. So we will.
Did I say anything? I thought we did discuss it in something else too, because
We
I know
might
I
have.
brought it up in something.
Yeah, we might have.
Yeah. But
Well, they're terrible.
yeah. Gas powered leaf
And
blowers. Yeah.
yeah, leaf blowers and lawnmowers and all of that.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly bad. But also, okay, so it's basically like on the one hand, you're using up a lot of gasoline and all of these things that contribute to greenhouse gas emissions.
Yeah.
On the other hand, and this was the part that I found the most interesting, they're saying that neighborhoods without trees are often hotter on average than shady tree draped areas,
Okay.
which has an impact on air conditioning bills and drives up carbon
I
consumption.
believe that. I believe that a lot, actually.
I do
So it's not the
also.
lawn itself; it's the
That's
effects
the
around the lawn.
thing. That's the thing, because saying that makes it sound like the lawn.
The evil
Okay,
lawn. Yeah.
yeah, the evil lawn, right? But then the other hand, I guess there is like your grass is not probably going to reduce the amount of carbon in the air nearly as much as a bunch of trees would.
Or bushes, or yeah,
Or bushes, whatever.
or a
Yeah, so
prairie.
that's like, that is, yeah, or even probably prairie grass, but that's the other side of it. So there's a couple different angles, but it is like it's not like your grass is spewing greenhouse gases into the
Right.
atmosphere
It's
like it
not
sounds.
carbon causing itself. Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess it's true. I mean, what they're saying is true. It's just a
Yeah.
little weird message, but
It's tangential or related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was this Discover? I think it was Discover magazine. I don't want to shit on anybody. I don't mean to, but I'm gonna say it was Discover magazine because I think it was. They say the take home message was that more trees, aka more shade, is really what's going to help with lowering carbon emission. And they quoted some scientist, whatever. You can read the article if you care who it is. And this person is saying everyone has
All
this
of us.
opportunity, yes,
Mm-hmm.
has this opportunity to contribute to conservation in their backyard. And they're talking about trees specifically. And that makes me angry. I take issue with this because, first off, not everyone can afford to live in a rich ass tree draped neighborhood
Mm-hmm.
or to plant a shitload of trees in their yard if they don't have trees.
That takes water too. Yeah.
It takes water, it takes money, it takes
Mm-hmm.
time because you better believe. Okay, I think I've told this story before. I have no trees in my yard. I have one big tree, not by choice, but because the person who owned this house before me was an idiot and she cut them all down because she didn't want to deal with the leaves. She told us this flat out. She sucks.
Yeah.
And I've mourned this. I've grieved this. It's been I've like gone out to the grave of the stump because you can still see it in the lawn. It's so big, and it was like just probably at least 3 humongous trees that she just chopped down.
Oh man.
You better believe if I could either get those back or just pay to replant trees that size, I would do it. But my God, it would be probably $1,000 or more at least, because each tree. Okay, we ordered like measly little trees, 3 basically sticks, and it was $60.
Wow.
And those things, first off, one of them died, and another one, it's growing relatively well, but it's been 3 years and it's still not shaded. I mean, it's not like, oh, what the luxurious shade this is
Yeah. I
offering.
mean,
It's
it
like,
takes 20 years for a tree or 10 years for a tree to reach maturity. That's going to be shady. Yeah.
yeah. And not to mention, we also got an oak tree. These are maple, which grow faster, but we got a different oak tree for free from our county, and those are slow. Like,
Yeah.
that didn't grow an inch in the
Yeah.
last year. I hope it's still alive. I don't know. But it's like, it makes me so mad that they say everyone can afford to do this.
Well, and yeah, I was thinking about like apartment buildings. You don't have a say in what landscaping. I mean, you could make a petition and like ask for it, but if they're just going to have grass or like no trees, you don't get a say in that. I think a
Yep.
lot of apartment buildings are pretty water conscious just because it's so expensive. And so they probably will have, less lawn and more bushes and things. But at the same time, yeah, most Americans can't afford their own house, and you don't get a say in your landscaping. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
like you
that's
said, you've been wanting to landscape for years, and same. I
it's
like look
cost
around, I'm like,
prohibitive.
this sucks,
Yeah,
but
and
what
we
am I
own our
gonna do?
houses. We're some of the rare millennials who like
Yeah.
get to make these choices and
Yes.
or have the space for it. If you're living in an apartment building in Brooklyn, yeah, there's not a lawn is not a question.
Right.
But it is interesting that, I always think of the lawn as like it was a cool space, like cooler. I mean, obviously cooler than asphalt,
Yeah.
but those other carbon issues are interesting because yeah, lawn mowing and leaf blowers and all the other stuff and air conditioning bills. That's interesting. That yeah, you want shade. Really, we want green spaces with shade.
Yeah, and like I said, if I could have them, I would, because I hate, like, our sunroom gets so freaking hot, and we've invested in like heavy duty curtains to try to keep the light out, but it
Yeah,
doesn't work like a
no,
tree. We
no,
can't even use our deck because it's just like, it's
just blazing.
composite,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
the composite actually turns into like fire, so
yeah.
you can't walk on it. Ruby, our dog, actually, like, it hurts her paws,
Oh,
so
your little booties.
it's crazy. Yeah.
I know Austin has a rule like you can't cut down mature trees. Like certain ones you can, certain invasive ones you can, but like local, like I have 3 huge pecan trees that actually aren't in my yard proper. They're in my neighbor's yard. I split one with one neighbor. It's actually part of the fence. Like the fence stops and there's the tree, and then so
Whoa,
it's split
cool.
between our land, but we can't cut those down. Like we're not allowed.
Okay.
Which I'm glad because it does it overhang. I mean, it's probably dangerous for my roof, but it does. It provides shade. So yeah, those are really important. I got free trees, and I'll talk about that in our tree episode. But I got free trees from a local program. So I have a fig and a Texas persimmon. Um,
Yeah, we have the same program, but it's like one per year. And like I said, we got an oak, and I'm like, well, 45 years from now, this will be
yeah,
up to
Ruby.
its true
Ruby will be
potential.
buried in its roots, and Charlie will
Yeah,
come back and be like, ah, yeah,
the tree.
the tree. Yeah. But yeah, it does take, I
Yeah.
mean, it take time. I have a friend of mine in Chicago, outside of Chicago. They had they're a glorious tree overhanging their neighbor's fence, and their neighbor made them cut it down because of the leaves on their pool. And then they put up a shade sail like in its place. And she was like, if you just left the tree, you know.
Oh my God.
So yeah, people are funny
Yeah.
about leaves.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't like this woman, but it is
Yeah.
what it is.
No.
Um, but yeah, it's kind of frustrating. And another thing, well, another question that we ask is like, is this proposal something that like a normal person could do or afford? And sort of like I was saying, is well, it freaking depends. Now,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Right? So, do you have an HOA?
Yeah.
Does your HOA dictate that you must mow your lawn
Or have
every
a lawn. Yeah.
or have a lawn, that you must maintain it in a certain way, that otherwise you're going to be fined? And there are actually really cool stories from all over the country about people. I don't know if it's necessary with the HOA, because there are also some local laws that say you can't just let your lawn go wild, which
Yeah.
I do understand, because you don't want derelict houses to be, you know,
Squatters, and there's all kinds of things.
yeah,
Yeah, there's a
yeah.
lot of those in New Mexico where it's like there's a weed ordinance. I mean, you get tumbleweeds, and it can start fires too. It can be dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
especially in dry places where, yeah. So that makes sense. It's
Right.
also really difficult to kill grass, um, and you can't just throw sod in. Like if you dig it up, you can't just throw it in compost. They don't want it in the trash. You have to haul it away. Um,
Oh.
Yeah, I have some friends who did their own landscaping. They had a yard in Utah, and in order to get rid of the grass, they had to put down cardboard, right? And then cover it with wood chips or
Mm-hmm.
compost. And then, that's how but they had so much sod, and stuff. But that's how you have to kill it. And that takes a lot of effort, I mean, compost isn't cheap for like square footage that much.
Yeah.
If you've got a pretty big lawn, it's not, if you already have one, it's really hard to get rid of it.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, everybody recommends like taking it small, like taking small steps. But I will say, covering plants or grass or whatever with cardboard and just leaving it for like 6 weeks or something. I did that in my backyard. It is a miracle. It works so well, because when you lift it up, you can just scrape away whatever's underneath it with ease. It's like butter. It's
Yeah,
amazing. It actually
that's
works super
crazy.
well.
Yeah.
Because I tried to plant some wildflowers, and then they all went to shit. So they all died. So it's fine.
Yeah, you're
I
like,
did
okay.
all this work for nothing, but maybe one day. But I do know that that works. So yeah, it's like, if your local laws say this, like I said, there are people who are fighting local laws, and they're basically saying like screw you, and they're working to change their local laws, which is really cool. So I think people are starting to open their minds to this. You know, you don't have to have a lawn to have a
Yeah.
pretty yard.
Yeah.
Um, do you have the money to either afford a tree draped neighborhood, or do you have the money and the time to plant a shitload of trees if you
Right.
can't afford
And
that
tend to
neighborhood
them. And yeah.
and
Hmm.
tend to them? Like I said, ours died. We unfortunately, well, we have a couple that lived, but we planted these little baby sticks in the year of the cicadas.
Oh, Lord.
And I was like out there trying to put nets over them, and the cicadas were getting through, and I was like, no. So one of them died because of that. But so a little bit that's interesting about the history of lawns, just
Oh, yeah.
briefly. Basically, The Guardian says that it's rooted in racism and aristocratic ambitions of America's ruling
Yes.
and middle classes.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, so in the 18th century, lawns gained popularity among the wealthy elite of France and England. And Thomas Jefferson and George Washington were some folks that imported those ideas
Yes.
from Europe. And they were rich,
Yeah.
as we
Have you
know.
seen Monticello? Yeah.
Yeah, I went to Mount Vernon and I was like, good Lord.
The lawn. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, the lawn of it all.
yeah. Yeah, both of them. Mount Vernon, I remember just so lush, but yeah, very like curated again, architectural. Yeah. Nature as God intended, not as God actually let it happen, which is interesting. And that's
Right.
a whole movement of yeah, the 18th and 19th centuries. Yeah.
Yeah, not to mention in Mount Vernon, they referred to the people cooking in the kitchen as like workers. And I was like,
You mean slaves?
yeah, you mean people who were forced into this life. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Forced laborers? Yeah.
Yeah.
Workers.
Well,
I
yeah.
guess that's a
It's weird. It's very strange. But that's a whole other story. Um
I should say not slaves, enslaved peoples.
right.
Yes.
Yes. Um so because lawns were so difficult to maintain, that meant only the wealthiest Americans could keep them up, and they became widespread in the 1950s, which is sort of what I think of a lot, is like
Yeah.
suburbia,
We all have that image. Yeah. Again, June Cleaver.
white picket fence.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Because the friendly lending market made it easier for white Americans to purchase homes and move to the nation's suburbs. And things like federal housing policies, discriminatory lending practices, and newly created homeowners associations allowed white families to almost exclusively reap the benefits of the growth. So basically, racism.
Yeah.
But now this is my observation. We need to make sure we don't go the other way. That it's only the poor people who are stuck with lawns, right?
Right.
So it's like, I actually looked at a 2-year-long study, and a team of researchers from the Nature Conservancy found that 92% of low-income blocks in urban areas have 30% less tree cover and an average temperature that's 4 degrees Celsius higher than high-income blocks.
Which is like 10 degrees Fahrenheit.
I did the math.
Yeah.
So like 30 degrees Celsius is 86 degrees Fahrenheit. So 34 degrees Celsius is more than 93 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
So that's like not 10, but 7 to 8 degrees.
Yeah.
So like between 86 to 93, that's like a noticeable difference.
Yeah. I mean, and your air conditioning bill goes up.
Yes. Yeah. And it's just more uncomfortable to be outside.
Well, and it's also, I mean, having worked in the Pedestrian Advisory Council, we cared about bus stops, like shaded bus stops. If there's a tree by your bus stop, if you're waiting 20 minutes for a bus, that makes a big difference.
Oh,
and
yeah.
More low-income people use public transit than, rich people with cars. So that's that. It's huge in Austin, Texas, where temperatures get up to 109 in the summer,
Yep.
Yeah.
Or even just in the rain.
Oh, yeah.
Trees don't really help. Trees do help.
They do. It's surprising how much trees
covered.
help with rain. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, it's not perfect, but it is better. But yeah, trees are they should not be a luxury.
Yeah, it's kind of wild how much, yeah. So that's just like one of my big observations from all this research, where it's like, we can't shame people for having a lawn or just having like a yard or open spaces, because maybe they don't have any other option. If they're lucky enough to have a house, maybe they can't afford massive landscaping bills.
Right. Or the
like
time
George
it
Truly.
takes. Yeah. Like me too. Yeah. Or the time it takes to do that kind of landscaping. I mean, you can always say, oh, homeowners can just do it themselves. And it's like, not if you're working 3 jobs and you have 2 kids and
No, not if you're trying to afford $7 eggs,
Yeah.
you know,
Or a $150 air conditioning bill
or
every
that.
week. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but there is an easy option if you have a lawn, which is what I want to try. Well, this is an especially easy one, but like I said, mow every 2 or 3 weeks rather than every week. But you can
Gotta tell my
also,
boyfriend that. It's gotta mow your lawn.
oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Tell him you're right.
I'm
I'm
like,
right.
no, I have to let it overgrow. I
we
must.
we mow we don't do it ourselves. We hire people. We hire this guy every 2 weeks because we're cheap.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that worked out.
Yeah, I have a guy who shows up at my front door and mows my lawn once in a while. And then Sean does it when he feels like it, which it has been, it's probably every 2, 3 weeks. Um, but I will let him know, like, we can let it grow a little.
Yeah, it's good to be.
Yeah, and he uses a manual mower too, so
Oh,
that's
cool.
cool. Yeah.
Wait,
So it's a
like
workout.
one of those old spinny ones?
We got it for free
Wow.
off Craigslist or something, and
Is it
yeah.
sharp enough? I just imagine it's so dull and old.
Yeah, and you can sharpen it. I mean, this is the thing. He loves taking care of tools and stuff.
Oh, nice.
He loves doing, but he also uses a weed whacker.
Okay.
He does the edging, and and he
Oh
sweeps.
man,
And I
can
know.
he come here? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I'm gonna hire out my boyfriend to all my, and he'll do it for free. That's the thing. He's like, I love it.
That's
Anytime anybody's
awesome.
lawn needs it, he's like, I'll be right over. So
Wow. I actually saw this Instagram. I don't know the name, but it was like an Instagram profile of a guy who goes around. I think he has a landscaping business, but
yes, I've seen him. Oh yeah, we love watching him, and he
yeah,
does it
he
for
goes
free
around and
for.
does it for free for people who just need their lawns. Yes, I love it so
I know,
much.
and it
It's so
makes you cry
nice.
at the end. You're like, that
I
grandma couldn't do
know.
it. Yeah,
I know. It's so good. Um, so I wish I knew his name because I'd like to. Maybe if we can find
yeah.
him, we can
We'll put
tag
him in
it.
the
But
notes. Yeah,
um, so the last question we ask is, does this Earth-friendly message need to come back to Earth? And I will say a little bit yes for all the reasons that we mentioned. But I do appreciate what, like I said, the National Resource Defense Council sounds so intense, but they had one of the senior policy analysts, and he's a senior policy analyst and a water efficiency project director. His name is Ed Osan. He had some like really thoughtful things to say, and I thought, Instagram's not going to give you this type of,
yeah. Nuance.
yes.
Yeah,
So he says, we're not declaring war on turf or suggesting that we remove every square foot of it, which is what a lot of people on Instagram would say, I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
But we want to encourage people to think about whether there are places in their yards that can be converted to allow for a more diverse and sustainable landscape.
I like that.
I really liked that because it was basically like, start small and do what you can, but you don't have to force your children to run through wildflower fields instead
Yeah,
of a lawn to play soccer. They're like, I lost my soccer ball
yeah. And my ticks are
again.
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm covered in ticks. Um so yeah, he's just kind of like, do what you can, and that's great. So what I want to do is, and one thing that was recommended all over the place, even Instagram, it's not the worst. There are normal people on Instagram, but what I want to take like a part of my lawn, like a small section to start, and then just stop mowing it. Like I'm thinking about putting flags to let the mower
Yeah,
people, we
don't
know
do
these
this
people.
part.
I don't just
Yeah,
call them the mowers, but anyway, yeah, like don't mow here and make it maybe a little wavy to make it kind of pretty and see how it goes. And then, like I said, I have an acre and I want to, yeah. We are actually going to chat about that. The next, 3 episodes are going to
yeah.
be other options.
Alternatives. Yes. So
Yes.
that's a great. Oh, did you want to do a granola rating real quick?
Yeah, well, I have a couple more things to say,
Oh, okay.
but
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
want to throw that out there.
It's a good tag for next week. We're doing clover lawns, so
Yes.
that's an alternative. Yeah,
Is it Clover next week?
yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's what I'm researching. So
Oh,
I
good.
hope
Okay.
so.
And then
You're doing wildflowers.
Yeah, so there's like wildflowers, clover, and then you're doing like xeriscaping.
Xeriscaping's later. I'm going to do water conservation stuff.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically we're looking into some alternatives for what else you can
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Um, so one thing, it's going to take more than individual action for this to change.
Well,
So
yeah, that's my question. So what do we do about parks?
yeah, and those freaking golf courses. No.
Yeah.
So it's going to take legislation, right? Like there are some good examples of this. Las Vegas has recently proposed a ban on grass, which I think is
For
fantastic.
Las Vegas, yeah, definitely.
Yes. Um, and California has enacted various regulations on yard irrigation during droughts. So
Yeah.
go California. They're always the leaders in this stuff. And yeah, there are massive droughts over there. So it makes perfect sense. Um, some people are calling for the federal government to provide incentives to states to either encourage citizens to abandon lawns or have like firm dates for mandatory removal for certain locations like Nevada.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because actually, the Las Vegas, the council or whoever it was that came up with this ban on grass, they went through and looked at basically every space that grass is in, like even medians, stuff like that, and kind of like dictated which ones make sense and which ones don't. So
Right.
it was really in depth and really cool. And other places can use that and figure out, okay, like use that criteria to in their own location.
Yeah.
And like we talked about, it's expensive. So Congress could help by subsidizing some of the costly replacement of lawns.
Yeah.
Because, first off, buying native plants, even if they're native,
Yeah.
it's very expensive.
Yeah.
Unless
They
you
don't
like,
just show up. Yeah.
yeah, like, unless I spent $400, at least $400, and I was pretty tight budgeting for like my two front flower beds that are probably like 30 feet by 10 feet. It's not very big.
No.
So that was $400 just for native plants there.
Wow. Yeah.
We're going to see how many survive the winter. I'm
That's the tough part. Yeah.
pretty nervous, but um or pass legislation like the green jobs programs, which is basically like a super lefty but cool idea.
Jacobin.
It's
Yeah.
never going to happen, but of like
Yeah. Like this.
offset. Yeah, well, it's the idea like to offset potential job losses in the lawn care industry, which would happen if,
Yeah. People didn't have lawns. Yeah.
but it's not like bushes don't need trimmed. It's not like trees don't need taken care of. It's not like,
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, I
Like,
guess the lawn is more like a consistent source of income, but
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, my parents' front area with no lawn gets tended to, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's still, you have to trim back the
Mulching,
lavender and the
whatever.
mulching and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There's a really cool win in Maryland. Sometimes Maryland pops up on these things all the time, and I'm so proud. But Montgomery County, Maryland, which is pretty close to me, they they have nuisance laws, and I think that was one of the laws that was like,
You have to keep your
don't,
weeds.
yes. Um, so they changed the laws to allow for naturalized lawns
Oh,
after
nice.
locals made the case that their wild gardens improved air and soil quality and reduced stormwater runoff.
There you go.
So that type of thing, like that's a big local win. And I'm like, Howard Cat, I shouldn't say where I live. Shoot.
They're
Didn't
going
mean
to
to do
pinpoint
that.
it. They're like, there's an acre and a half right here. That's her. Everyone knows I live in Austin. Come on.
That's true. Austin's huge. Anyway, Howard County, fine. Yeah, that's where I live. Anyway, I don't want anybody to triangulate me, but it's fine.
If they do, we'll call the police.
Right.
Don't stalk Tiffany.
Yeah, so there's no reason that like my county couldn't do the same, that your county couldn't do the same. That yeah, it's like
Yeah.
really cool that people are doing fighting the good fight,
Yeah, and
right?
there's definitely a movement in Austin for that kind of. I mean, we're a hippy dippy city, so I think, and there were water mandates last summer. I mean, we've been in a drought for years now, so
Yeah.
you can only water once a week. There's no way you can keep a lawn alive with once a week watering. So they
So
are
does
doing
everybody just
things.
have dead lawns?
Not
Or
everybody. Some
ah,
people paid the fines and things.
oh wow.
Yeah,
That's determination.
I know people are crazy,
That's wild.
but yeah, I mean, it is. That's the other thing about laws is not everybody's going to follow them. So
Yeah.
right,
Yeah, I know. I actually have a friend who lives in Austin also, and her backyard is pretty big, but it's astroturf, which is really interesting.
there's a lot of that. I hate astroturf.
Yeah, I don't think she loves it, but it's like, you don't have to do anything
You
with
don't have
it.
to, yeah,
You
you don't have
just,
to water. It looks green all the time. Yeah,
yeah. It looks probably neon green, but yeah, I
yeah,
don't know. It's
bright
probably
green.
fine.
Yeah, but
Um, yeah, so some of the better options than like a grass, an entire lawn of grass or weeds in my case. Um, there is basically you can like I said, you can let your parts of your lawn grow wild and just see what happens. Again, we're going to talk about alternatives, but I'm just going to throw a couple out there. Low growing turf grasses that require little grooming, like fescue, which is a funny name, but it's a type of grass and you actually can mow it. I've seen stuff on Instagram about it. And it looks pretty good, but it's basically just like this really hardy, long grass that flops over. So it kind of looks like a normal grass, like luxurious. Or, yeah, so you can try native landscape where you put native plants in that are non-invasive specifically,
yeah,
and that can hopefully thrive, fingers crossed, in the local conditions. And you can also try a yard with edible plants. Um, part of your yard with like vegetables or fruit bearing trees and shrubs can replace parts of it. Again, this all costs money, so unless you have the hookup with some nursery, man, I need to make nursery friends, but
yeah.
get a discount. Um, so yeah, there are a lot of options. I would say just like start small and don't shame yourself if you're starting nothing at all. Just do what we can, you know?
Yep.
Um, so granola rating. That's my last and final thing. We are kind of like we still have the granola rating. We talked about like we're revamping it because we didn't want to say we can't say like what like is this worth it for
Right.
you? Like is this worth like who knows? Whatever you can do, you can do. Whatever you
Yeah.
can't, you can't. So we're sort of more like looking at either how much greenwashing there is in the product or in the rhetoric around the system or whatever, or like how reasonable it is that a normal person could do and afford
Yeah.
this. And so we rate all of these things on a scale. It's sort of like a sliding scale from soggy, which is soggy granola. Nobody wants that.
That's a one. Yep.
That's a 1 to break your tooth off, which is super duper crunchy and fantastic. Everybody wants broken
Crunchy
teeth.
granola. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our. The Dental Association of America's like, get these women off the air. Crunchy granola. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I'm putting this kind of like smack dab in the middle.
Okay. For
Um
like the lawn destruction
yeah, so for the
category.
no mow movement, the no lawn, anti lawn, whatever you want to call it, um basically removing parts of your lawn. I'm putting this like between. Okay, here's the thing.
Yeah.
That's why this is so hard to rate.
Yeah.
So if you are doing it and you're just a human doing it, like break your tooth off, like
Yeah.
absolutely 5 out of 5, great,
Yeah. And
do it.
that's like not, that's reducing how often you mow. It's replacing what you can.
Yeah.
with native whatever,
And the
or
fact that
just,
it's like sort of the lazy person's alternative makes it even more
yeah,
desirable.
yeah. That's
It's like
definitely break your tooth off.
awesome.
Anytime we can be
Yeah,
lazy, that's break your tooth off.
exactly. But the messaging, so if we're thinking about the messaging behind this movement, it's annoying to me. And I think it's a little bit elitist and a little bit too
All or nothing
generalized,
and judgy. Yeah.
judgy, and just sort of like, oh, you can do this, like
Hmm.
assuming that everybody has these resources. So I would say like the messaging behind it is definitely like 3.5,
Okay, that's fair.
which is chewy, between
Yeah.
chewy and crunchy. So it's not bad. It just annoys me. So I have to give it,
Yeah.
knock it down a couple points.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, it doesn't take into account individual circumstances, and
Yeah. It's very annoying.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and not everybody, again. There's this woman on Instagram called Yard Farmer that I love. And she's just like super realistic about this stuff. She also lives in Utah. So she understands like needing to
Water.
save water.
Yeah.
She's a sustainable landscape designer, I
Oh,
think
that's
is her
cool.
title. So she's awesome. So there are really awesome people on there, but it's just not everybody is that way. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think anytime there's like a movement that's super judgy and very like all or nothing, that gets under
yes.
my skin very
Yeah, like
easily.
you should do this, you should do that. It's
You
like,
have to. Yeah.
okay.
Or you're evil.
Right.
Yeah. Like I don't think people who have lawns are evil.
Right. It's like maybe they just don't know.
Yeah, or I mean,
Or maybe they just like it.
yeah, that's the thing. Your house is like so much of an aesthetic choice. I mean, I might be like, okay, if you're spending a lot of water, especially if they're keeping them green during drought, I might be a little like side eye, but it's not
Right.
mine to say, like
Yeah.
I'm much more interested in our public spaces that we all deserve, tree-lined streets, shady bus stops. Like that's way more important to me than the guy up the street with $1 million lawn, like
Mhm.
fine, he's a jerk. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's judgy of me
And
to
they're
say that,
probably
but
not jerks, but they're
no.
just like
Yeah.
lawn jerks, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some people are just into that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
So that's what I have for us.
I love it. Thank you. I feel educated.
Oh, good.
I didn't consider, I mean, I've always thought like lawns are cooling. I mean, they're better than asphalt, but at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
like, it didn't consider the kind of tangential carbon effects of having a lawn. I mean, I knew water was a main issue, but that's an interesting way to think about it. Yeah, so I learned
Yeah,
something.
it is interesting because you don't need to mow your trees, like under your
Never.
trees.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when we get into leave the leaves,
Oh,
yeah,
well, there's that.
yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, that was good.
Yeah. And I think the goal is to have like one kind of, we're just trying out a little bit of a new
Format here.
system
Yeah,
for this. Yeah. Have one like more in-depth interviewed, good lord, my brain,
yeah,
more in-depth like research episode, and then a couple of shorter episodes
yeah.
that are just more like bite
Focus on
size.
one. Yeah,
Yeah, so we're going to focus on like clover, we're going to focus on wildflower lawns, that type of thing, and those will
yeah,
probably be a little bit like quicker, easier to digest. So
yeah. So
we're going to try
yeah.
that, see how it goes.
Get an hour-long episode now, and then a couple 20-minuters.
Yeah,
20-minuters.
probably
Yeah.
20 minute
Minotaurs. We'll call them minotaurs.
minotaurs, like our aquaphor.
Yes, Aquaphor
Aquaphor
minotaurs.
minotaurs.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tiffany. That was great.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to start our outro music. Again,
Okay.
new system.
Yeah.
So we're going to say an outro and we're going to talk about how to find us.
Yeah. So I will start while you start playing that. Find us on Instagram. We're at Greening Up My Act. That's a great place to interact with us. We love hearing from you. Share your stories with us. Share us with your friends. Yeah, let us know what you think about this. And
Yes.
you can send us an email too. We've gotten a couple emails lately, so shout out to the folks who have emailed us. But we're greeningupmyact@gmail.com.
That is so exciting.
And like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, can't wait.
Woo.
Bye.